For panel, so I'm gonna just say a few words. First, a big thanks and thank you to DocuSign, who is hosting us first with this nice location and always a warm welcome. So if you don't know Boris yet, feel free to go and talk to him afterwards as well. And you can always, if you don't know DocuSign, you can always try and test the service and get a free complimentary 1-year subscription to try it out as well. So thank you for hosting us once more. It's always a pleasure to be here. Then we have VivaTech, who is also here with us tonight as our main sponsor. And so if you don't know yet, Camille is going to give a very short presentation so you know about the conference that is coming up in May. And before I'm going to introduce all the panelists as well that are very kind to join us tonight and share a little bit of their insights and expertise. So we'll have, Dominique Piotet, CEO of Fabernovel US, who works a lot with a lot of large corporates. And Barry O'Brien, I'll try to remember every name, but I'm not sure I'm going to be able to. I'll see, I have a backup. No, I'm good. For now, I'm good. So working in corporate ventures for Silicon Valley Bank. And also Alessandro Promutico, CEO of Atelier BNP USA. Same, working with, of course, BNP, but also a lot of external clients. And Connie Weisman, who is VP Partnership for Plug and Play, and VP of Innovation as well. And finally, so Nicola Elbaz, who was supposed to be here, had a personal emergency, but we have the pleasure to have Jay Choi, who is kind of subbing, and I'm sure will be an amazing job there. So thank you so much for the last minute participation. And so he's a general partner for Partech Venture and Tecton Ventures. I guess you're going to tell more about that as well. So a very, very short word about the French Tech in case you don't know about it already. So I'm Clemence, and I'm Clemence Vincent, and I'm managing the French Tech in San Francisco. What it is, it's a label and a brand mostly that aims at supporting and accelerating all French entrepreneurs so we can have more entrepreneurs and more successful ones around the globe. We have basically 13 cities in France and 22 outside of France where there is that community of entrepreneurs and that is helping each other and connecting so they can accelerate. And we also aim to federate the local ecosystem where we are, because there are a lot of players and everyone is serving the same goal of having more successful startups and good news to share. So feel free to join us on social network. We do events. There are also some content. We love to share the news. So if you're a startup and you're settling here, let us know about you so we can connect you to the right people as well. And that's it. I think we're going to stop there. Hand it over to Camille, and so she can talk a bit more about VivaTech. Thank you.
So hi everyone, so my name is Camille Sabal. I'm representing VivaTech as their brand ambassador tonight. So before we start, I would like to say two quick things. The first one is I really want to thank Clemence and French Tech San Francisco for welcoming us tonight and for their help organizing this event. It could not have been done without you, so thank you very much. The second thing I want to share with you is that we are giving away 5 double passes tonight to attend VivaTech in Paris in May, next May. So if you are interested to attend the event, please put your business card. There is a box, like a ball at the entrance, and at the end of the event I will draw the winners. I don't intend to be very long tonight. I just want to give you some information about what is VivaTech and the upcoming edition. So VivaTech is a European event dedicated to startups, to digital transformation and innovation, created by Publicis 3 years ago, and taking place in Paris every year. And the next edition will be held in May 24 to 26. So the aim is really to gather the European tech ecosystem to talk about the future of tech and all the game-changing business solutions. So maybe we could watch a short video and you'll have a better overview. So as you can see on this video, the first two editions of VivaTech has been a huge success. More than 68,000 people came from all over the world. More than, I think, 103 countries were represented. Amongst them, 15% came from the US, so it's quite it was quite a lot, quite huge for such a young event, which only has been created 3 years ago. But the only key figure I really want to focus on tonight is the 6,000 startups that came over the last 2 years. That's really quite a lot, and why did they came? They came for one reason, is that VivaTech has this capacity to bring on the table the 25 largest companies of Europe, all sector leaders such as Orange, LVMH, Sanofi, Airbus, and to meet and really the aim for those startups is to meet those companies and to work together during the event in one roof, which is called the Open Innovation Lab. So as you can see on this slide, VivaTech is organized around 4 pillars. The conferences, of course, the Hall of Tech, which is a place where companies can showcase their products and their innovation. So if you are a hardware or consumer electronics startup, please come to me and maybe we can do something together so you can showcase your product. The third zone is called Accelerate, it's for software companies. So again, if you think you have a role to play in this zone, please come to me at the end of the event. But the zone I really want to focus on is the Open Innovation Labs. where startups, thousands of startups came to meet those largest companies. So what it is exactly, a lab is a place created by one of our sponsors, so one of the 25, to work for the duration of the event on a specific topic, which is called a challenge. The goal is to come to VivaTech with those companies, to work with them, and then to sign a partnership or a proof of concept. All those companies, they look for new business solution. LVMH looks for new retail solution, Airbus for new data solution. So it might be you, if you think that your startup can work with them during the event, you can enter the competition. It's on this link, and it's on the VivaTech website as well. And we will be more than happy for you if you can, set up a deal with those companies. So if you have any question about it, please let me know. I'll be more than happy to answer them. And I think I'm done. Thank you very much for listening, and have a good night.
Thank you. Well, good evening. Good evening. Very happy to have you here to talk about one of my favorite topics. I'm Dominique Piotet. I'm the CEO, as you can tell, I'm French. A lot of people are French around here, but it's VivaTech, right? I'm the CEO of Fabernovel. Fabernovel is an innovation agency. We have 400 people around the world. I'm the CEO of the US. Here in San Francisco, we have the innovation agency, but we also run Paris Soma, our accelerator for corporate, and actually the oldest co-working space of San Francisco still alive. Thank you, work, for being nice with us. We have more than 200 members. We have six large corporations, and we have 2 really nice accelerator programs, including our really cool friend of the refiners. Well, I love this topic because for my 25 years of career, I've been, okay, let's start back. I call this a sandwich. So there's 2 pieces of bread and there's something in between, whatever you want, usually ham or cheese or ham and cheese. And basically the story, and actually it's kind of the story of this panel around us, it's the story of that sandwich. You have the bread, the startup, on the outside, you have the other bread on the other side of it, which is the corporation, and in between you have people who try to make those 2 pieces of bread stick together and make that sandwich taste good. Can be VCs, can be us, innovation agencies, can be accelerator, like our friend at Plug and Play, can be a bank. And can be, of course, yes, a VC. So basically that's what we're talking about. How does that sandwich taste? Also, I love this topic because it's kind of a hate-love relationship between startup and corporate. We all find that startups are sexy, are nice, they're quick, they're agile, they're a little bit rebellious, they're disruptive. So we want them. But when you're a startup, you want a corporate because they have money, they're grown-ups, they can support you. Actually, they could even be your client. How cool is that, having a client? They could even invest in you. And then, when you're a startup, at one point, you want to become a corporate, right? And then maybe you become less sexy, less agile, and you wish you could be young again. See, so that's a little bit the story of what we're going to talk about. But maybe it's all the same after all. And I would like to, I don't, of course, you know Eric Ries, because you're from Silicon Valley, so you've all read Lean Startup, and you all practice, right? Because everybody practices Lean Startup, whether you're in a corporation or in the startup world. That's the way you're supposed to do it. So his new book is called The Startup Way. So when you're a big corporation, what are you supposed to do? Okay, it's not his best book, but read it. It's interesting anyway. So in the introduction, he says, over the past few years, I have had many such moments when I've been struck by the parallel challenges faced by organizations we typically think as very different. Out of this conversation with leaders, coporates, and founders, startup, I have come to realize that today's organizations, both established and emerging, are missing capabilities that are needed for every organization to thrive in the century ahead. The ability to experiment rapidly with new products and new business models, the agility and the ability to empower their most creative people, and the ability to engage again and again in an innovation process and manage it with rigor and accountability so they can unlock new sources of growth and productivity. So basically what he's saying is, in fact, startup and corporate have the same challenges in a way. They must stay agile, they must innovate, they must keep going. Well, this is what we're going to try to figure out with my beautiful sandwich right here. And I will actually let them introduce themselves and ask them, okay, what part of the sandwich are you and how qualified are you to be in this panel? And maybe we start with you, Connie.
Okay. I'm Connie Weisman. I'm Vice President of Corporate Partnerships at Plug and Play Tech Center. So Plug and Play Tech Center, we have 22 locations worldwide. It's really the largest global accelerator. We have about 400 startups that are in our Silicon Valley office at any one time. We make investments, but really what we do is we are an innovation platform where on one side sits the corporations that are looking for technology to either enhance what they're doing or potentially disrupt what they're doing. So we become an external pipeline of innovation for them. And then on one side are our startups. So they're looking for those introductions. So we are literally, like, if I had to break it down to like two words, we're like technology matchmaking. So we listen to what the corporates are interested in, and then we show them startups that meet those needs. So we do it in 11 different industry verticals, fintech, mobility, IoT, health, insurance, supply chain. So it's been very successful. We've been doing it for 12 years now. So like in 5 years, that's probably like 77 years or something. So we've really been doing it a long time, very successfully. At least I'd like to think so.
Yeah, in sandwich here, it's very, very old as well. Well, maybe Alessandro.
With pleasure.
So it's a pleasure for me to have Alessandro here because in a way he took my seat. I created Atelier BNP Paribas almost, 15 years ago in San Francisco when I was working for BNP, and Alessandro is now the CEO of that beautiful organization that I really cherish.
Thank you, Dominique. It's so nice. I mean, we used to say we sit on the shoulder of the giants. Dominique founded L'Atelier in the US. So I'm glad and honored to be in the driving seat now. So I'm Alessandro, the new CEO of L'Atelier Americas. Why we are here? Because actually our DNA is to work between corporate and startup. We're very small, and we're proud to be. We are 50 all around the world. We're 10 here in the US. We are 30 in Paris and 10 in Shanghai. So we have 3 locations. Why we are so small? Because we do believe that we need to custom fit innovation for the corporates, and for our corporate BNP Paribas, it's a specific example. So we try to be that agent that makes the combination solution coming from a fintech and business needs coming from a corporate match. And we don't do just matchmaking. By being at the same time internal and external, so we are kind of a virus, because startups are vaccinated against corporates, corporates are vaccinated against startups. And we have our team that is composed by startuppers, by VCs, people that are not have never experienced the bank, people that have experienced the bank for a long time. And we try to basically define and qualify the business needs of the lines of business that we work with, and find the right startups and solutions.
Cool. Well, it's also a great pleasure to have Jay Choi from Partech Venture with us. Partech, for those of you who don't know, is one of the oldest VC firms, I think, in the world. Partech means Paribas Technology, so it's French, yes, thank you. And it's a spin-off of BNP Paribas, a very, very old spin-off of BNP Paribas. And Jay, what qualifies you to be on this panel?
So I'll give you a little background. So I've been with Partech for over 12 years now.
I'm not sure even, oh, the microphone is on.
Hello? Hello?
Yeah.
So I've been with Partech for a long time, and just a little sort of revision. I'm standing in place with my partner Nicola, who couldn't join today with the family emergency, but what I do is I'm a little different from the usual venture capital here, is that we're an early stage venture capital firm. Partech itself is, it again, started in the mid-'80s, or early '80s, by a couple of gentlemen, one I work with called Vincent Worms. And it's one of the larger U.S. European funds, 3 offices between San Francisco, Paris, and Berlin. Capital is about just under $1 billion across stages, mostly all IT and internet investing. My role was actually run a lot of the early stage seed and series activities here as a venture partner, so a little correction on my background. But I also, in tandem, started a separate fund called Tecton Ventures, which is a fund that we spun out of Partech about 10 years ago to mostly focus on a lot of global early stage investing. We do a very, very close relationship given the family history of Partech, and that fund was actually started by myself and my partner Vincent, who's the original founder of Partech. So, yeah.
Great. And last but not least, Barry was managing director at Silicon Valley Bank. If you're a startup, you want to do business with Silicon Valley Bank, right? That's kind of the dream place where you want to be. You have to be accepted by Silicon Valley Bank, and the criteria are kind of interesting. But you're working more on the corporate venture side. What qualifies you to be on this panel today?
I'm feeling terribly underqualified after your announcement. The bank, so does anyone not know Silicon Valley Bank? Brilliant, that makes my job very easy. So the bank today, we were founded in 1983 by a bunch of guys that played poker together in San Jose. True story. They were complaining that there was no bank at the time to take care of startups and what was to become VCs, such as NEA. So between them, they went and remortgaged their homes. They got $5 million, that was the share capital to start the bank. Today, we're floated on NASDAQ, about 13 billion market cap, assets in excess of 50 billion. We today bank over 70% of all the venture capital in the United States, and we bank well over half of all the VC-backed startups. We're not just in the bank, we have 30 offices across the United States. We have 180 people in London, we have 30 people in Israel, and we are the only American bank licensed in RMB and dollars operating in China. So we have offices in Beijing, Shanghai, Shenzhen. We also, as of this year, have offices in Germany, Canada, and Ireland. In terms of me and my group, what I do, I manage globally our relationships with the venture and investment arms of the Fortune 500. What we do for them depends on how they're structured. So some such as Sapphire, which is SAP's VC arm, we bank it, just like we do Andreessen, Sequoia, any of those. I should also add that SAP Capital is our investment arm. We've got 3.7 billion AUM there, and that means that we take large, it's mainly fund of funds, and we are large anchor LP in most of the Valley VCs. What else we do for them then? Others such as Qualcomm and Intel, it's a balance sheet fund like most corporates, so it's a fund, but we'll bank there globally over half of their portfolio I bank. And then others, I advise CEOs like Microsoft, Procter & Gamble, Under Armour. We advise them on companies to look at, particularly in geography, because with a corporate, as against a traditional VC is slightly easier to understand than corporate VC. We'll use our global remit to find companies. So deals we've done as we acquired things like MapMyFitness for Under Armour. We tried to convince Procter & Gamble to buy Dollar Shave Club, and then their competitor did it. And other things like that. And then, like I said, I meet the board of Microsoft once a quarter and look at their strategy. Does that qualify?
Yeah, I think that does. And what also qualifies you is that you're only one without an office in Paris.
Yeah, we looked at that.
Right? What's wrong with France? We have VivaTech. Station F and Emmanuel Macron, I don't understand. Anyway, okay, so the rule is no rule, so those panels can be extremely boring. We don't want that. especially because we're the only one between the bar and us. So we're not going to want that. So if you have any questions, any comments, something you don't like, raise your hand, jump, comment, but please, let's make this fun and a good conversation. And my first question to you guys is going to be, well, I mean, do you think this is a real topic, the discussion between startup and corporation? I mean, Eric Ries seems to say that this is the same challenges that we are all facing. How do we go fast? How do we innovate? How do we stay agile? Is this a real topic, or is this just made up? And if it's not, what are the real questions that you see? And maybe Connie, will start with you.
Great. Well, we work with about 200 corporations, and they're Fortune 500 companies that are looking for innovation. So I do think it's real, and we've only been even though Plug and Play has been in existence since 2006, we've only been doing the corporate innovation piece of that for the last 5 years. So what happened was, all of a sudden, so there was, I heard a little bump in 2008 where venture capital wasn't so readily available, but all of a sudden, corporate capital was available. So like they wanted to look at things that were potentially going to be things that they could acquire or potentially disrupt what they're doing. So we started to work with these Fortune 500 companies, and I think it's a very real thing. I think that everyone is looking for an external path, an external pipeline of what's available. Like when Airbnb has sold their 10 millionth room and hasn't cleaned one of them, that became very disruptive. Like the hotel industry didn't really see the impact of that. So they were thinking, well, this is just one example of how we potentially got blindsided. So I think it's real, for sure. I think corporations are investing in it. I mean, just by virtue of the fact that we have over 200 corporate partners that are just joined us in the last 5 years, I think that it's a very real topic. And I think that even though they may be percolating things internally, they are also looking at what's being developed externally. So yes, I think
but do you think it's going to save those corporations? I mean, Hilton didn't see, or Accor didn't see Airbnb. I remember at TED in 2013 when I tried the first Google car. It was crazy. I was yelling in the car, I remember having a conversation with the CEO of Renault at that time, say, hey, look, and he said, Google is never going to make cars. It's not their job. They will never know how to do it. And actually, I remember when I was at BNP Paribas, we were like, nah, we've been here forever. Banks are not going to be disrupted. We have agencies, we have people.
I disagree with that.
Right?
As a bank, no, we're way open to disruption.
Okay, cool. So so you're open to disruption?
Massively.
How?
Hands up here says money's important to them. Yeah?
Right.
You don't think your money's important to you?
Oh, let's come and talk.
Where do you keep your money?
In the bank.
Crypto.
and there's the disruption.
That's a good example. Yeah.
Under my mattress.
Whoever wants to go to the bank to see their money, even though it's very important to them.
To see it?
No, you never want to go to the bank. No one ever wants to go to the bank. So how you engage your bank changes. So I remember as a boy growing up, I grew up in Dublin, my father had companies, and on a Friday he would go to the bank, he'd meet the bank manager, they did their banking business, and he knew each other, they'd swap Christmas gifts. I think if I ever had children, I explained that to them, they probably think my father was insane. So we as a bank, we look at, we partner heavily with companies like Stripe, we have big partnerships with MasterCard, we're a MasterCard bank. First Data, we run an accelerator with, because how you access your money, how you engage with it, how you engage your finances, will change. And crypto, exactly, what is the definition of money is changing. So, and how we exchange value is changing. So as a bank, we've got to be very, very much ahead of that. Our digital platform is one of our biggest, right now, things that we need to fix, because we bank, as I said, we bank over half of all the startups in the United States. That means our client base are mainly entrepreneurs, they're very forward thinking, they're very digitally savvy, so they expect a different product. And we as a company, to stay serving that market, must stay ahead of it. And particularly as entrepreneurship and these startups become more core to any economy, other banks, such as a bigger bank like a BNP or a Goldman, will suddenly we see this start coming into our pool and want to share our business.
Alessandro, how do you view this?
I guess this is a subject that exists, and for L'Atelier, BNP Paribas, so the same people that are saying we were there, since two centuries, and we will be there. L'Atelier, as an innovation studio, it's 40 years that says you're going to be disrupted. So again, we are that catalyst in the middle that says things are going to happen, behavior is going to change, attitudes are going to change towards the banks. Be careful and start doing things and test things with external solution, but also with internal solution that you might imagine for your clients. That's why we're here. That's why we change also our activity model. So when you arrived here, I think your mission was more to understand what was going on, to transfer this knowledge also to France, to Europe. Right now, here we're serving Bank of the West, which is part of BNP Paribas. We're running an accelerator with them, which is FinLab, starting in March, by the way, startups. And again, we want to find solutions and execute them into a real business model, because we do believe disruption is there, and it's gonna, show up every day and every day more. So crypto is maybe the next way.
Jay, you're more on the startup side, but a lot of corporations came to you to invest in Partech. How do you explain that? What are they looking to do?
Yeah, so a little perspective, context, I guess. So the things that really jump out for us is, our view is that, if you don't innovate, you'll die, and it's the classic conflict in the world. And I think every industry is going through that fundamental shift. And so if you don't sort of embrace the culture of innovation, the culture of automation, and all the things that are going on that we're living and breathing here, whether you're a small startup or a corporate or a VC, you are exposed. So that's the context. And so in regards to the corporate question, I think fundamentally it comes back down to alignment. The Partech model, and has evolved over the years, is that some of the largest major conglomerates out of Europe and the US are looking more for something. That something can be ideas, it could be M&A, it could be strategic partnerships, it could be commercial arrangements, but fundamentally there is an alignment that you have to strike, and it's the same sort of dynamic example as it's the friction that you have with a VC and an entrepreneur. The push and pull that happen at the board level it's healthy, and I think it's very understandable, but you have to figure out as a corporate, and also as a let's say looking for innovation, to figure out where do you sit in that cycle of alignment. Because if you're not clear exactly, and you don't have the process and the platform to execute, I come from sort of the Asia background, and we used to do a lot of corporate partnering in Japan in particular, and what I've seen, simply put, is some of the largest, biggest conglomerates out of Japan, they came here and they had this idea that we want to capture innovation culture, and that first wave basically failed because it was sort of this baseball analogy. There was a pitcher, but there was no catcher on the end. And so I mention that because I think now there's a lot more sophistication in the corporate sort of innovation model, and we are benefiting and working very closely with some of the LPs and our partners basically to do that.
That's interesting, because I mean, corporate are looking for something innovative. That's what worries me sometimes. Being at L'Atelier, it's the same interactions that we have with our colleagues in the bank. You don't look for innovation. You qualify innovation and what you need to have within your business model. That's what we try to do. That's why we're saying, we don't go around, we see showcases. We just go find what we need. That's pretty important. And I think this is a signal that sometimes this is a trend that's going on, so everyone wants to jump in and say, look for something. When you take innovation seriously, you look for a pipe of execution. So you need to have your ideas clear on what you want to execute, mid-term, long-term, short-term even.
Okay, something that is very classic in the way we describe the way corporations work with startup is basically they're going to kill the startup they're working with. Because they're super slow, they're super needy, they don't exactly know what they want. You don't exactly know actually how to or who to talk to in the corporation. So we see a lot of startups who are like, yeah, no, I don't want to work with Unilever or P&G. They're too big. They're going to kill me. They're going to slow me down, and I'm not going to focus on the everything. What is your take on that? And have you seen good practices? Go on, Mary.
Yeah. So this is a real problem, right? Because startups. You know, we always say, you know, a quick yes or a quick no is better than a long maybe, right? A long maybe will kill a startup. So we, you know, like maybe we'll work together, we don't know. We have a lot of examples, funny stories, I guess we could say, you know, we have like a big car manufacturer comes in and they want to work with a startup and they give them a 40-page MSA agreement. That's a killer. We go, we can't do that. You need to boil that down to 2 pages if you want to work with a startup. So we try to give them some best practices, things that, you know, they don't have a team of attorneys to work with. They want to work quickly. So, so to your point about, you know, not that they're just, we have corporations that are just looking for innovation. They have specific technology interests, and hopefully there will be something that they can integrate into something that they're maybe already building. Or there's like the moonshot out there that they're going, that's pretty interesting, and maybe it doesn't fit, but it's nice to know that's on the horizon. Maybe that's over the horizon, we don't want to deal with it right now. So, so we do try to have some corporate best practices, and like I said, we go to, you know, quickly get back to the startup. Let them know if you are not going to be working with them. Let them, if you're going to work with them, give them a 2-page MSA, you know, agreement to work on. We also encourage them to do something. Remember, we have these our model is that we put them together in these technology deal flow sessions. So the corporate comes in with their team, they tell us what they're interested in, we'll bring in 4 startups, they'll meet. How they engage is really up to them. But we also run an accelerator program with them for 3 months. So they'll identify startups and they'll work for 3 months with them. That is such a great way of working with a startup because they can look at the entrepreneur, look at the progress that they've made, and they can work together in kind of a non-binding way for 3 months. So, and then if something happens, we encourage like a POC, a pilot, maybe they become a customer, maybe they invest. There's different ways to work. But we do try to encourage them to work quickly, you know, move fast and break things. And that is not the corporate technology, that's not typically a very corporate way of dealing with things. But we try to educate them on that. And that's a little bit high level of what some of the best practices. But
Barry, what is your take on that? So when you go to a big corporate and you talked about startups, when you go to P&G and tell them, hey, look at Dollar Chef Club, it's interesting. What do you tell them?
That's what started the relationship. We tried to convince them this was a good acquisition. At the time, they could have voted for about 10% of what it sold for, and they didn't listen to us. And then suddenly they came back 3 months later when it had taken 12% of Gillette's market share, and they wanted to talk to them. The startup was like, no, we don't want to talk to you anymore. I think it's not dissimilar to what Connie does. I mean, it's your point about being a good sandwich. Our priorities are clients. It's the startups. So it's as a bank, we're different to Jay, who's trying to find an exit. We're trying to find growth, because the more a company grows, the more it needs its bank, and the bank makes money by lending money. So we do quite a large vetting process on the corporate. We won't let them near our clients. We need to make sure that they are very certain of what they want, and then also that there's a goal. That why am I going to put my startups in front of you? What are you going to do with them? Because this kind of idea of corporate safari or corporate tourism that you get, these kind of large companies will show up here and they kind of drop their brand name around and kind of shocked when VCs don't want them as LPs and startups don't want to get in their front door. So that is a huge part of what we do. We don't work with everybody. There are some who think that they don't need to do this, that everyone should be so lucky to be in their presence, and we just won't work with them.
That's a great point, actually. I mean, one of the best practices that we noticed and we're trying to replicate our best is Coca-Cola with their reverse pitching process. We believe the problem is not how you do innovation and how fast you're going, how you do sign an NSA or NDA. It's a cultural asymmetry. So you need to find a common project to execute and to go for. And you don't need to ask a startup to pivot into your business model. Coca-Cola does this with design. They reverse pitch their solution, they build the solution with the startup, and they basically work together with a plan. So this way you align culture and you set expectations in a specific timeline. That's really what we try to do with Bank of the West, to really execute and not to slow down and to create from the cultural asymmetry, timing asymmetries, delays, business asymmetries, business needs asymmetries, and so on. So that's...
Jay, what do you tell startup, especially the very young one, when they come to you and say, hey, I have a meeting with this large corporate, should I go, or should I... Do you tell them anything? Do you give them any advice?
Well, I think the general rule is that you have limited resources, right? And so the key is to focus. And if you don't qualify a relationship, a corporate, or a business opportunity, you can't put all your eggs in one basket, essentially. That's the analogy we put. I think I have a little different view, maybe it's different from the firm, and just even overall, is that in my experience of working, I guess, in startups, what is a startup want to do? You want to build something that's very disruptive and very category defining, and essentially you're trying to assemble people instead of the sandwich. You want to put the train. You're trying to assemble people on the train, and as a corporate, one of the people that you want to be assembling, and there might be an alignment. I think at times at different stages of evolution, like at the early stage, it may or may not work, because if a company is building, an enterprise technology product and they have 18 months of runway or 12 months, those core partnerships just take too long. And so is that the best use of time? And is there an alignment? I go back to this alignment question, because if you don't have alignment in the beginning, it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. And every corporate has a very different objective. At the end of the day, it could be a corporate venturing activity, it could be a commercial partnership, it could be scouting just for innovation for the sake of driving cultural innovation into the company. But you have to qualify and figure that out, ultimately, to figure out if that matches it.
Cool. I would like to come to another topic, which is something we all love, which is flirting. So it seems that there's a lot of places, and more, places where corporations and startups are flirting together. Well, VivaTech is a great one. Le Web at that time was a great one. Actually, we have a lot in France of those. Station F is a beautiful one. Plug and Play is an amazing one. L'Atelier BNP Paribas for 40 years has been a great dating place for startup and corporate. Are they really useful? Is it that difficult for corporate to meet startup and for startup to meet corporate? Do they need those dating, I would not say app, but maybe there's going to be an app for that at one point? What do you think?
Yes. Yes.
There's going to be an app for that?
Yeah, well, no. Actually, I did try to buy a company to do that. You keep talking about Eric Ries, he made a lot of his, he keeps talking about how work he does for GE, and if anyone's looked at GE recently, they're sinking faster than Titanic, so I don't know how much I trust him as the sensei of all this.
That's kind of what I was saying at the beginning.
Some of the largest American companies, we'll use Procter & Gamble as an example, they're in a city like Cincinnati, which is removed from here, and the opposite coast. The psychology of the company is such that for 150 years they're wonderful, everyone's telling them they're wonderful, it's like the most spoiled child in the world, everyone thinks they're great. So they kind of expect that they can just find these companies and they understand better. The reason that corporates get outmaneuvered, like a Kodak for example, is Kodak invented the digital camera, yet no one here taking a photo of us is using a Kodak product, is that they get too comfortable. and they don't know what to look for, they don't know what can hurt them. And that's why the smarter ones, like a Microsoft, will come here, will put their venture team here, not in Seattle, to make sure that they're plugged into the ecosystem. And they'll look for centers of innovation in the world, like Israel, like Germany, like France, and put teams there.
I mean, well, I call this a technology matchmaker right from the beginning. So flirting seemed very appropriate, right? So I do think I think it's important, like to your point, you know, Barry, like we need to have the corporates, if they're located in the Midwest, and we are actually opening up Plug and Play in Cleveland, which people go, Cleveland, like why? But we actually are working with Cleveland Clinic, which is the second best hospital in the country based on USA News and World Report. And you're thinking Cleveland Clinic needs us for innovation? That doesn't make, but it does. Because not everything is dreamed up there. Sometimes you need those external sparks to have people think differently, not to use the Apple analogy, but I do think flirting, it does work, and we've had companies that came, again, a story from Columbus, Ohio, guy comes, great product, we put him in front of these corporates, he gets 14 pilots. Where do you get 14 pilots in 3 months? With Anheuser-Busch and other, I mean, these are game changers. Now, it doesn't happen all the time. We certainly don't put our very young startups in front of corporates because they're not ready. They're not ready for prime time. They will get eaten alive by a corporate. But we do know what the sweet spot is. We do know when there is, maybe in Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, we've been working in that for the last 5 years. I mean, people are just starting to really engage. I mean, some of my colleagues, I think they're like billionaires. Like, they're already millionaires overnight. I'm kind of mad that I didn't jump on the bandwagon there, but
next one.
But anyway, so what I'm trying to say, I think there is a good place for flirting. I think there is an opportunity to see what's out there on a more of a global perspective. We work with Mercedes in Stuttgart. We have the Daimler Mercedes accelerator that we're running, Startup Autobahn. And Daimler's not afraid of what GM was doing in Ford. They were worried about Apple and Google. We didn't see that, like you said, you know, they didn't see that coming. Those are your new competitors? You know, 5 years ago,
Actually, that's an interesting one because we're working with another car automaker who is not as smart and as advanced, and we had a great meeting with the startup, and I will not mention it, and they're saying, oh, we love your product, we're really willing to actually invest in you, but you can't work with any of our competitor. And the founder of the startup, if you do that, you're killing me. Yeah. So, and you see a lot of those actually pattern that are actually not helpful for a startup, but just are really going to kill them. And what do you tell corporate? How do you educate them?
You're talking about flirting. Flirting means find the right speech and speak to the right people. Actually, you need to have diversity even within your team to be able to understand who you're talking to. So a startup doesn't want to talk with an old banker like me, and maybe a banker doesn't want to talk with a startup. It's funny enough, in our team we have startuppers, bankers, former VCs, and we try to be able to put ourselves in a position to talk with everyone and to understand the needs of everyone. And I mean, to your point, I do believe it's important to understand what is the final objective of the corporate, of course, but to grant and to guarantee open market and growth to the startup. Again, Coca-Cola, because it's amazing and I'm not ashamed to say that, and we're trying to copy them. Coca-Cola is reverse pitching, of course. Coca-Cola is investing into startups with convertible bonds. And they're saying, you go in the market, there's no issue for us. You want to go with another provider, go for it. We want to produce innovation at cost of production, and if we are the first one investing in you, we already won that battle. We add up 0.25% on operating margin at the end of the year. With our volumes, shareholders are very happy. So there's no ambition to buy.
As you speaking of flirting, my grandmother always told my brother and I, shop and try before you buy. And I think that, and I think that's important for corporates.
Your grandmother told you that?
She was So, but you look at, like, one thing, traditional venture capital is quite easy to understand as a model. You go to your LPs, you raise capital, you put in a fund, you invest in companies, you return an outsized return. That's quite simple. Corporates, in all the years I've done this, there's no two corporates invest for the same reason, even in the same vertical. It's somewhere between a financial and a strategic return, and no two are at the same point. So in terms of why would they buy it, or put kind of that kind of term on one, in my experience, it's very, very bad for the corporate to do that. It shows they don't really know what they're doing, and it's a bad signal to stay away from them. Most startups will pivot at least 7 times from when they start to when they exit. So they may be at point 3 of those 7 pivots, and now you're coming in to acquire. You're basically saying you can't do it, or you can't go to, if you're Renault, you can't go talk to Peugeot. That's going to hamstring the company and probably put it out of business, and word will get around. You know, they're like they're like school kids. They chat, they start to talk to each other, and no one will want to do business with that corporate either. It's very the only. I mean, if you're going to do that, then you need to do what a GM did. We helped them acquire a company for 1.3 billion. Cruise, exactly, yeah.
Nice.
But they had to pay a massive premium to do that, and that's the only way you'll do that if you want to stop them talking to another competitor.
Well,
you know, I was just going to add to that. So Plug and Play, we are an open innovation platform, and so back to Coca-Cola, we actually have Coca-Cola and Pepsi in our program. If you could get those 2 people in a room together, that's pretty remarkable. So with Daimler, we started with Daimler Mercedes, but we really believe that in order for the startup to be successful, they have to have the availability to be open. Their technology has to be open to everyone. And we will not, people have asked us for exclusives. Like, will you not, can we cut out this other company? And we're like, no way, because we have to have the startup see everyone. It's not fair to them, because at the end of the day, we want the startup to be successful. So now Daimler, we have BMW and Porsche, all in that same in that startup Autobahn. And you know, would you ever think that everybody would sit at the same table looking at startups? And it does happen. It can happen.
Jack, any?
I mean, the analogy I would say is, yes, I would promote flirting from a corporate perspective, startups. Don't do it too long, because then you'll be the person that is viewed as with the bad reputation of just flirting. Yes. I think it's very clear. I think the analogy would be flirt for the intention of dating, for the intention of marriage. I mean, that's the general path for, because if you're a corporate trying to figure out what your mandate is, whether it be investing or other, you don't know what's out there. And so the idea is go out there and meet as many people, and then figure out what are the key mandates that you're looking to do, and then you get top to bottom level sponsorship, and then set up an organization that allows you to do that, whether it be you could be partnering up with VCs, you could be working with startups, but you have to figure out that roadmap, because if you don't have that, then you typically have the corporations that go through the 2-3-year management shuffles, and maybe that CEO says, oh, let's do the corporate venturing thing, and then it turns around after 2 years, and then it starts from scratch, and it's a cycle that never really changes. And so the idea that we, you know, even for Partech perspective, I'll share with you, we have some of the largest conglomerates that work with us, and quite frankly, it's because, you know, in terms of the opportunity, there's no other choice. You have to basically start having a conversation, and if it's working with the venture firm or working with and planting an activity of Plug and Play, you have to do it if you don't have the access, and it comes back down to the access, right?
Great. Well, our time is up, and it's time to open the floor to questions, comments, remarks, drinks, flirts, dating. Yes?
So just a remark here to follow up on the discussion you just had. I was at a conference in Calgary last week, and I was talking to the head of Shell Technology Ventures, and he was precisely making the point that he doesn't invest in a company unless his competitors are willing to invest in the same company at the same time. That is what spreads the risk and assures him that other people who have a different perspective on the same industry, oil and gas in that case, are also judging that technology startup to be worth of putting money into it. I'm just offering that and wondering if you have any reactions to that.
I think the better corporate VCs, when we work with a large spread of them, using Qualcomm as an example, Google's probably the biggest corporate investor in the world, followed by Intel, followed by Qualcomm. Qualcomm's whole mantra, you were talking earlier about kind of innovation, and the ones that we see getting it wrong are the companies that view innovation like Q Branch in the Bond movies. There's like a bunch of guys in a room doing crazy stuff and they bring it back and it's going to work. That always fails. With Qualcomm from the Jacobs down, innovation is a key to the whole go-to-market. So the whole point of Qualcomm Ventures, most of the mobile devices in this room are running on a Snapdragon chipset, so they've saturated that market. So it's where do you find your next market? So guys like Qualcomm, they look at drones, what they term frontier technology drone, server farms, robotics, cars, automotive is a huge thing for them. And look at how they'll invest in that technology. Cruise is a big investor, or they're a big investor in Cruise. Invest in that technology to basically seed a market for themselves to ultimately sell their core product into. And people like AMD and other what you would see as their competitor are quite happy to invest with them, because ultimately they're growing a market to sell to, because it's a strategic reason for investing.
I mean, I would argue that if you think about a big corporate multi-billion-dollar company, if you're looking at doing some kind of a venturing activity, it's a very small, minuscule percentage of their R&D budget. And so if you look at the grand scheme of things, it doesn't, unless you have a measured ROI based on that, I don't know why you wouldn't do it, really. And the comment that you made about Shell, I would just say that that's probably more in the camp of a corporate that is laggard and looking at sort of lemming FOMO investing. If I were to be very, very frank with you, is that if you're doing it you're doing for your competitor to validate that there is an opportunity, then you're too late, right? Because at the end of the day, that option's not going to be available to you in what we've seen.
That's very. In 2015, Intel Capital's returns were better than Sequoia, NEA, or Andreessen, but their returns go into the R&D budget of Intel, which is $12.2 billion. So it's like hitting a 22 off a warship. It doesn't make a dent to the financial balance sheet of the company. So why they do it is, Jay's exactly right. It's a very different reason to do it.
Well, Shell, I think this one is, we want to play a little bit with flirting and dating.
Well,
at this
starting
point,
to move to open relationships now.
At this point,
to a scary path.
Yeah. At this point, you want to date and you want to flirt with the best people out there in the market. And if other people are trying to flirt as well, it means that there's a common understanding of the potential. Mm-hmm. So that's the main point. That's why you want other people to invest in the same solution. VCs are doing the same for spreading risk, but also to test the appetite of a solution from different industry. We do the same. If we do see other banks looking at other startups that we're looking at, we're even more interested. So there's a way of getting access and qualifying.
I mean, I would just say to you that the practices that we've seen evolve over time in regards to this panel is that generally, historically, corporates were much more, I would say, tight-screwed about what their agenda was, which is much more aggressive terms, exclusivity. Now, if you look at just venturing and what we see here, if you don't cooperate with the ecosystem, you're not going to get in. That's just, it's more standardized. And so I think that the more alignment is, once you build that trust and those relationships with the ecosystem, you have to play the part to figure out where you fit it. Like the sandwich. Everyone has a part in the sandwich, right? I mean, my objective is I'd like to be outside the sandwich. I want to build the biggest, most unique sandwich in the world, right? And be part of that. And I think as long as corporates and the rest of the ecosystem can foster that and enable that, then that works very well.
And that's our whole model, kind of going back to the plug and play with 11 different verticals. We have 60 insurance companies that are just looking at insurtech. So when we have our selection days, we'll have 30 insurtech companies sitting shoulder by shoulder to shoulder. And they're making the decisions on those startups together, and they know who will be accepted into the program. And that validates, again, the technology. And so I think that model works. So it doesn't become exclusive, and it doesn't become like a FOMO situation. Well, it could actually become a FOMO situation because people are like, oh, did you know that so-and-so is doing a pilot with so-and-so? And then that becomes information for the other person to maybe act more quickly. But one of the things that we didn't see coming with Plug and Play, which is all these corporates, they actually like being in the same room together, looking at the startups together, and they share practices, and there are things that come out of that anecdotally that they really look forward to the selection days to sit next to what they would view as almost their competitors, during the regular time.
Yeah, we've started doing work with BP on Target, because 20 years from now, there's probably not going to be too many petrol-fueled cars. Yet BP have all these service stations selling petrol. So you put into a BP service station today, you'll probably spend 10 minutes in the forecourt putting petrol in your car. You're charging an electric car, it's probably 20, 30 minutes. Suddenly you have a captive client or customer for a lot longer in your forecourt. So we've been having to work with people like Target and other retailers, because again, what sells in Singapore may not be what sells in London, doesn't sell in New York. So looking at retailers in those markets, and then seeing what on those forecourts you might be selling to a different kind of customer.
Any other questions? Okay, there's two things we like in France: flirting, and I think that's done, and food and wine, and I think that's next. So thank you very much to our panel, and let's keep the conversation going.
Yeah.